As 2025 winds down, we're winding up our political panel to take a look back at the biggest political stories in Saskatchewan this year and what to watch out for, and those people in Saskatchewan politics to watch out for in 2026. And we might even get some predictions for the new year. Our panel is here in studio. Murray Mandryk, a political columnist, and our provincial affairs reporter at CBC is Alexander Quon. So Alex, let's start with you. What is your biggest political story of 2025?
For me, the biggest story has been the wildfire response from the government. Obviously, we know that the wildfires that swept through much of northern Saskatchewan destroyed a portion of Denair Beach, and there, of course, has been the ensuing fallout with calls for the resignation of then Public Safety Minister Tim McLeod, and of course, there is that upcoming review of the government's wildfire response. But I think on a more broader level, this is, I think, at least the third year in a row where there has been just destructive wildfires during the summer. And I think the continued perception from many people in the north that I've spoken with is that the province has repeatedly failed to actually prepare to deal with these wildfires, failed to budget to deal with these as well. And so I think maybe it hasn't hit as well for the public or drawn as much attention with the public. But I think when half a community burns down, it does raise a level of consciousness about it. And I think this government's response is becoming a real issue for them. So it'll be interesting to see if or how that plays out in the next year in terms of planning for the government.
Yeah, Alex, it's hard for us in the South to fathom the destruction out there and what people deal with when they're having to evacuate their communities, lose their homes, lose their property. Murray, how about you? And let's put wildfires aside. It'll make you pick something else. What stood out to you from the past year?
It was a fantastic story. My choice is much more boring. It's the budget. And it relates actually to the wildfires because right now what you have in Saskatchewan is structural deficit because we're not accounting for wildfires. We're not accounting for crop insurance. Last night, power workers were out in the middle of the night on overtime, which is the least of their problems. It's dangerous out there. But certainly adding to the cost of a Crown corporation, a Crown utility that we pay for that's already sinking $1 billion extra in the hole. All of this is a structural problem that the government is not addressing. And this is a Sask party government that's been absolutely petrified to raise taxes in the last 10 years. The last tax increase of note was 2017, and they've tinkered around with this, that, and the other thing. But they have not actually restructured in terms of major cuts and or tax increases in 10 years to address the problem. So they're having the same problem they're having in the city of Regina and all over the country right now in terms of governance, where people people in power are scared to actually do this because they know the political cost. And they cannot afford any longer to go much further with the cost of everything because they can't rely on a windfall of oil or wherever else anymore. It's just not happening. And so I think in 2026, that's going to be the interesting thing. I think it was the interesting thing in 2025 because they tried so hard to sell it as a surplus, and that was absolutely ridiculous. Now we're seeing the end result, and I think we're going to see an even worse result going forward.
And Alex, let's switch over now to personalities. And there are many personalities on the political scene in Saskatchewan. Who's someone maybe that you have your eye on and maybe the public should keep their eye on?
Yeah, my choice, it has to be Jordan McPhail. He's the NDP MLA for Cumberland. He's also the party's critic for Northern Affairs. And I think he's doing really well as a first-time MLA. He's really hit the ground running. He has continually done well in media interviews, and he has spoken really well on his file. He's also been the NDP's lead on the wildfire issue. Part of that is, of course, because most of his constituency were the ones who had to be evacuated and displaced as a result of the wildfires this summer, and he was also personally affected by the wildfires by being displaced as well. So there's also a willingness to get into go toe-to-toe with ministers during the legislature. He's willing to debate them for 5-10 minutes. He does really well. He's fearless while he does it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the NDP give him a bigger portfolio if they end up doing a critic shuffle at some point.
Yeah, that's someone who's got a busy file as a critic when you have wildfires. Murray, who's someone you have your eye on?
Well, that's a good innovative answer. I'm going to go two real quickly, and once again, boring answers and obvious ones. The first one being NDP leader Carla Beck, because the NDP do not seem to know how to position her. They're falling in the polls, and they don't seem to be taking advantage of her best attributes and kind of putting her out as a bit of the attack dog right now. She put out a tweet just before Christmas, which was silly about how desperate they are to defeat the Sask party government. And it reeked of desperation. And coming with those polling results a few days later, it's not a good look for this. They need a better look for Carla Beck. They need to provide some protection with her so she doesn't have to play that role and other people do. So how they position her in 2026 is interesting. But Scott Moe is kind of interesting to me as he is and as he should be as premier, because I'm not sure where he's going. I'm not sure where he can go with this relationship with Mark Carney. I'm not so sure where he wants to go in terms of his future in provincial politics and where he's standing right now. He's fascinating in the sense that he still seems to be doing really well in the polls, notwithstanding everything I'm talking about in terms of the budget and everything. All the problems. My question is, well, what happens when he's not around and they don't have that center point to focus their stuff on?
He's also said he was going to run in 2028. So
we'll get to that.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get to that.
It's a good tease, Murray. You're good at this. You have a future in this business. So
I have no future.
Alex, at the end of the year, we had some uncertainty with the Liberal Party. Speaking of federal politics, the Liberal government, its leader. Obviously, so much happened in the last 12 months. Do you have a fearless prediction for 2026?
Yes, I absolutely do. I'm going to predict that the relationship between Scott Moe and Mark Carney is going to sour at some point in the next year. Scott Moe has talked about how he and Justin Trudeau did not get along. They were not able to even be in the same room with each other, really. That has, of course, given way to kind of a much more cordial relationship between Mark Carney and Scott Moe. But I think the two, as friendly as they are, they have different goals. Scott Moe's obviously advocating for Saskatchewan. Mark Carney has to look at a more national level. And I don't think, when push comes to shove over their different interests, I don't know how much that relationship is going to withstand. I also don't know if it's politically smart for Scott Moe to continue having a cordial relationship. He did really well having Justin Trudeau to play off of. I don't know if it works as well when you have a friendly relationship with the federal government and the federal government isn't necessarily giving you or getting you what you want.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance, obviously, Murray, when you're criticizing the federal government on one hand, but you have a handout because you need to work with them on different projects. What do you think of we'll start with that. What do you think of the future of the Carney-Moe relationship?
Well, particularly if you look at what's going on to the west of us and the pressure that I think Saskatchewan is going to see from Daniel Smith, Alberta, and the whole separation question and the question that's going to ask, I think that just heightens things. We're going to see real changes in the federal Conservatives, and they need someone basically to support whoever is next, and that might be Pierre Poilievre if he survives, but whatever position that the Conservatives take in terms of taking on Ottawa and Carney. And there's going to be immense pressure to, as Alex described, to basically change that relationship politically. And I am interested in seeing how that all plays out and how he can position. I think Alex is right. I don't think you possibly carry on this cordial relationship because the honeymoon will soon be over with Mark Carney, and there'll be other issues in play.
So you did tease, that Scott, you had something to say about Scott Moe and his future. So is that part of your prediction for next year?
Yeah, I'm thinking he's gone. And I probably said this before. And I don't mean that in any kind of ill will way. It's just the timing. If you are going to leave it makes more sense to leave now in preparation to the 2028 election by having a decision made in 2026 so you can get the new person in position. Now, I know what he's saying, and maybe there's some interest in being, taking the Sask party to a 6th term and everything else. And I know the polls are suggesting right now that he might be able to do that. So a lot of what I'm saying is still counterintuitive. But I think with the situation coming forward, with the budget, with things like wildfires, with all the issues where he's literally putting out fires on a daily basis, there's immense pressure to do that if you've been doing that for a decade. In the year interview, he was talking about, how much he loves being a grandfather and all the other changes in his life that happen when you get to a certain period. And, it hints to me that maybe he's looking for alternatives. And the only reason he might not be is sort of concern of leaving the province and the party in the position that it is. But given the position it is, given the problems that we're having with the budget and otherwise, maybe now is the time. And I'm sure that's got to be going through his head, notwithstanding what he's saying publicly.
Murray and Alex, we'll clip this. We'll hold you to your predictions. We'll check back in a few months and see if you're right.
It doesn't matter. I'm old and retired.
Pressure's on Alex.
Pressure's on Alex.
Murray and Alex, thanks so much.